So you actually get paid for this, Doug, or this is the day gig?
Well, this is where I work during the day. Right now, I'm working on some music that's for a television show that we have in development. This children's television show that I'm working on, and I'm just working on arrangements of tunes that will hopefully be used on the show. Also, in here, we do a lot of programming for the TV shows that we work on. Goosebumps. Done a lot of work in here for the Discovery Channel. Some of the shows that are on there. A lot of song demos, just things like that. It's quite an elaborate setup. With this setup, we can do all kinds of things. As you see, I press a button. And we have a full arrangement of a tune. It's just some buttons being pressed.
Is this where the CD was recorded?
No, but it was not unlike this this setup. I worked in a room much like this. We had actually pretty much the same gear. The CD, however, was mostly done with guitar acoustic instruments, and we recorded onto a small digital tape recorder.
Yeah, I had a good listen to it. How many tracks were you using? It seems pretty sparse to me. I was quite impressed with I would assume about 8 tracks.
Well, it was recorded on an 8-track, but in fact, some of the times we didn't even use 8 tracks. You know, if there was a guitar and a voice on a song and that was it, we might use 4. You know, each the voice and the guitar being recorded in stereo. But no, we hardly used anything. We recorded on some of the songs, like there's a tune called Lizzie Lindsay, and we recorded, I think, 2 other musicians as well as myself, and I was playing guitar, mandolin, and singing, and then there was fiddle and penny whistle. So we were starting to use up all 8 tracks, but no, it was essentially done.
Was a lot of it done live? As you know, like you were just playing your guitar, guitar and vocals, or did you do your guitar?
I had to track it. I had to do the guitars all first, then do all the singing. Mostly because we were just in a room like this. We had one microphone. We couldn't really do guitar and vocals at the same time. Generally, it's a problem even in larger studios. Although they in a larger studio they would have the wherewithal to separate the guitar and the voice a little bit better. They would have a mic on each, but we had one mic, so we had to make do.
One of the promotional things you gave me, it said Summer Tour. Stay With Me. Was that an album?
That was an album that came out after Mona with the Children, and I didn't get a commercial release of it. I couldn't get a record deal. I couldn't get a distributor, all that kind of thing. I did a tour that summer, opening up for Seals and Crofts, who were doing a tour across Canada, and I was able to sell albums that way. And I did get some airplay. One of the songs on there called "Lose Your Lovin'," I got a significant amount of airplay on. But again, I didn't have a record deal, so it didn't really amount to.
Tangleheart, which number is that for your albums? Is this like the 3rd album, or have you been? How many albums have you done to date, or how many in the can?
Well, that have been released commercially,
or even that or have you've produced.
Well, I've done about 5 or 6. Yeah. Mona with the Children is the one that's seen the most attention and certainly the public's notice. I did about 3 albums that were released in the Baha'i community worldwide a number of years ago that had to do with youth and children. I did a children's album called Rainbows, which has also gotten a limited commercial release, and that was just prior to Tangleheart. So I've worked on probably 4 or 5.
Yeah. Tangleheart, I almost thought it was a spiritual album. Listening to it, it could pass for a Christian album. From my listening to it, anyways, that was my interpretation.
Well, there's one song on it that's an old gospel song. It's actually not even a Celtic song. I did it in a kind of the Celtic style, but I had no intention of that. I think what it is about that music is that it is inherently spiritual, and it would tend, I think, to appeal to that in people.
Is that Mary with 3 Links that you're talking about?
Mary wore 3 links.
Yeah, because when I listened to, like, I was listening to you at the chapters, and you had the slide guitar, and it sounded so much different from. I had to have a second listen to it.
Well, it's as I say, it's an old gospel song from the southern states, and when I started to play it, I realized that there are great similarities between Celtic music, or so-called Celtic music, and North American folk music, because in fact North American folk music was a blending together of English, Irish, Scottish folk songs and the black blues music that was going on at the time. So really, I think you can go into just about almost any kind of music and find those parallels. I'm also a student of the blues, and I like the blues, and it seemed to go together to me. So, but I didn't have any sort of overtly religious ideas in mind with Tangleheart. To me, it was an expression of the music. If the music expresses that, well, then I think that's the richness of the genre and the richness of the actual songs.
Where did you? It seemed like I know you're a happy guy because you're happily married and that, but you seemed to must have quite a lot of pain. I thought, man, my first listen to the record, I thought, man, this guy's had a lot of deep wounds. But where did that all come from?
Well, I think again, it's the music. The years that I've been involved in pop music, whenever you write a sad song, no one wants to hear it. No one in the business wants to hear it. They think, oh no, don't you have something up tempo, Don't you have something kind of, more positive? If you listen to music, if you listen to the radio, there are a lot of sad songs on the radio. There are a lot of songs about people's, lives falling apart, their relationships breaking up. If you go back to Celtic music, there are really a lot of sad songs. They talk about people dying. They talk about great tragedies. That's just simply a part of life. And if you ignore that part of your life, then what do you have to compare with to make your life happier? What I found with that kind of music, with Celtic music, is that I might not necessarily be a sad person or sad all the time or depressed, but when I sing those songs, it touches that place in myself or in other people. And I think it's a place that people recognize. I think it's also very necessary. Music for the Celts, and then down since then, and in many cultures, was for the longest time the way in which all the cultural information was transmitted from generation to generation. People learned about who they were from their music. People learned the stories of their families, of their ancestors, and often there was great tragedy involved, and it was a way for them to release those feelings. I know many times I've played at weddings, and I've played a song which to me might not necessarily make people cry, but everyone's cried, and they come up afterward and say, oh, you made us cry, and I think, well, I didn't really make you cry, you were ready to cry, and all this song did was, bring that out, because it spoke of some deep beauty or some deep truth. I think that's also goes back to the role that in the Celtic world and then thereafter, the singer, the poet, the bard would have. It was their job to reflect back to the people who they were, to in fact tell them who they were, to give them knowledge of where they had come from, and to touch them in that way, and so that they would remember those things. We seem to have often in our culture, we don't want to talk about things being sad or tragic, but we're only too happy to listen to a sad song that will help us, bring that out. And likewise, we're happy to listen to a happy song because that, reinforces that feeling as well. But you have to have both. And I think Celtic music, especially Irish music, is fantastic at getting at the tragic.
What's the next step for you after Tangleheart? If another album does come for the creative juices keep on flowing, which way are you going?
Well, right at the moment I'm working in 2 streams. One is the Celtic stream, and I plan to make another album like Tangleheart within the next year. And I'm working pretty hard on getting Tangleheart distributed and marketed and all of that kind of thing. The other thing is I'm working in children's music. I'm developing a television program, and writing a lot of tunes like the one that I was working on here. Those seem to be the two streams that I'm going in, and I don't think that I don't think there's a conflict between one and the other. I think that they'll complement each other. And what's happened to me is that I've found a musical home in these places. I feel comfortable. The kind of music that I feel closest to and enjoy, I can play in these streams. If I was trying to be a pop star, I think it would fit, because I don't feel as attached to pop music, although I like pop music. But these are the kinds of music that I grew up with, and these are the streams that I'm going in.
So with Celtic music, that's the alternative to alternative?
Well, as I get older, I think I'm less involved in what music is and what it's called, and pop music to me is sort of one big huge thing, and alternative music seems to be part of that one big huge thing. So-called Celtic music, I think is just simply a style. It's a genre. It comes out of the past. It's a tradition, and if I continue to learn songs and write songs in that tradition and growing out of that tradition, then that satisfies me as a musician. The music business is a whole other thing, and pop music to me is so much wound up in the music business that my intention is that when I record CDs that people get a chance to hear them and buy them, so it's not that I'm opposed to it, but at the same time I found in the past, when I was involved in the pop world, there would be an expectation for me to do something which was eventually I saw was outside of myself. This was not music that I could relate to. This wasn't music that came from my soul. And returning to Celtic music, and with the kids' music, I'm returning to sort of country blues roots, folk music roots. Those are the roots that I started out in with music, and that's where I feel at home. I worked prior to this. I worked for
Is that right?
Worked at a factory in Scarborough for about 3 weeks.
And that was it. Eh?
Yeah. Well, I got laid off. Happiest day of my life. No, you're talking about making a living, making music, and I feel very fortunate that I get to do this, and I haven't been doing it all that long and making a living, and for me it's a great it's a privilege, and I'm quite happy, and I know that if I had to I would do something else, but I've always done music even as I worked at other things. So if you're anywhere between the ages of 9 and 12, you probably are reading Goosebumps books. And,
yeah, I've seen The Watch.
For instance, when our son was 9, he only read Goosebumps books, and he read them by the dozens, and he collected them and he traded them, and it's now this big TV series. It's actually very, very successful in Canada and the States.
Is it American?
But it's sort of scary.
Oh,
it's produced here in Canada.
Was that right?
It's also shown in the States. And it's a scary show. I mean, it always has some weird twist to it, and that's just like the books. Very, very good.
Oh, sorry, excuse me, Doug. Just try to get a different angle. Sorry, I'll let you get in there. Do you got to turn?
This is another kid's tune.
So what time the chapters go to?
It's supposed to go to 7, but to me that's way too long. I think it should end. is that? And you can.
Infinite amount of virtual tracks type of thing?
Well, with the machines that we have, each of these machines has 16 sounds that you can run at once. Plus we have 4 audio tracks where we can actually record guitar or voice or something like that. So, you know, you have this unbelievable range of sounds and things that you can do. And the program itself allows you to do things like, I like that part, I can copy it down here. There it is. I don't like it, I can get rid of it. And I was just going to record something on the Rhodes. So.
How long have you been playing keyboard?
Since I was 4.
Okay. So this was your first instrument?
Yep. Later I'm going to add guitar and stuff. Oh.
There's that man with that thing on his head.
Way over there?
Do you get an electric guitar at all, Doug?
Yes, I do. I can
Any pedals? Any, yeah.
play an example. Let's close this. Something that we did recently for, where is it now? Wait, no. Let's see what comes up here. Oh yeah.
Synthesized?
No, the guitars were real. The rest of it is.
Do you find with MIDI music though sometimes it sounds a little bit stiff? That's why myself I actually prefer you know, like any if it's played live, you just can't beat it. I think they still haven't yet close.
Yeah, agreeable. But you know, for the purposes of writing music for television and film, being able to do stuff on MIDI has completely changed the way you do it. You know, we can do something here in a day that would have taken weeks before, you know, like a full orchestra or, you know, a live band. And yeah, I think when it really counts, you might want to go and do the real live stuff. But most music that you hear on TV, you don't hear a lot of it anyway. And I think most people's ears now are so attuned to hearing programmed music that it's something which I think sometimes they'd be very hard pressed to know that they're actually hearing it. Now, when I listen to commercials on TV and stuff like that, I hear sounds that I know come from some of these machines. So you know, I know that okay, that's programmed. But other people listening can't really tell. It doesn't bother me. I know what you're talking about. And for instance, Tango Heart doesn't have. It has a few synthesized sounds.
Is that right? Which tracks? Which just out of curiosity?
Well, the bass sound is a keyboard bass sound. I guess that's about it, really. For that music, I wanted it to sound like these were real musicians playing it because that's really, you know, that suits it. But for instance, let's hear what this is. Live guitar and sequenced tracks. Another thing too, like this is a guitar track that was recorded in it right here to hard drive.
Was that direct? Are you going through a pedal for that?
I was using some pedals. But you can see this is the lead guitar track. Hear all the mistakes.
Oh, digital, you can cut it out.
Yeah, I might have been sort of worried about this, 5-10 years ago, but now it's so convenient, and to be able to record live guitar playing or voice right onto hard drive is, it's great.
It's the thing.
Well, the tracks are really, if I like something I did, I can double it, I can repeat it, I don't have to play it again. If I want to shorten it, lengthen it, cut it in half, any of those things, it's entirely possible.